Hi, my name is Tom Schultz. I'm the founder and CEO of Divine Inspirations. My company has developed a new disruptive software technology that we believe will revolutionize many industries. The first application of this technology has been packaged in a healthcare web application called Google RX. This video will demonstrate use of Google RX as a powerful research tool to ask and answer compelling healthcare questions across the patient population, ranging from a single healthcare facility to a hospital network, ACO, statewide health information exchange, even theoretically across all healthcare institutions in the country. Today, most healthcare research activities revolve around clinical trials. Clinical trials generally are driven by companies seeking regulatory approval of a new invention, such as a drug or a medical device. General noble cause kind of research for the betterment of mankind is lacking. This is because such research generally requires teams of highly skilled technical healthcare professionals expending months and years of effort. Google RX breaks these barriers by providing the ability for the average person to ask compelling research questions and get back answers in seconds or minutes. The following demonstration makes a case for this bold claim by illustrating use of Google RX to perform powerful medical research. Google RX has a very simple interface. The user types in health-related search criteria and then presses carriage return or presses the button labeled Execute RX Search. To make a more compelling demonstration, I chose a collection of examples all focused around a single research theme. I chose a research topic highly relevant in the news. Consider the May 5th, 2015 article entitled "The 3 Deadliest Drugs Are Legal." At number 1, we see tobacco, followed by alcohol, followed by opiate painkillers. Let's use Google RX to research opiate drugs. We can type in the following: harm caused by opiate drugs. The following is what is returned from Google RX. Let me point out a few things. We see the number of rows returned over 4,700. That represents the various conditions that were found. We have a column labeled harm reported. This represents the number of harmful drug reports filed with the FDA. We have a column labeled harm validated with legal values of Y for yes and N for no. This represents whether the medical community is aware of the potential harm for the given drug specified. The output of Google RX can be sorted by clicking on any column header. So let's go ahead and click on harm reported. We discover the following. Drug abuse is the most reported harmful side effect of taking an opiate drug. Let's click into the FDA data by clicking on 5366. We see the following opiate drugs. All of them have the adverse event of drug abuse. Let's go ahead and sort on the count column. And what we discover is heroin has the most number of drug abuse claims, 489. Following close behind are a number of prescription drugs. Google RX can be used to research how much money the federal government has spent on opiate drugs. Consider the following. 2014 government cost associated with opiate drugs. Google RX returns the following. We see a number of columns. We see a column labeled drug cost. This particular number represents the total dollars spent by the federal government on this particular drug. We see another column labeled total criteria cost. The criteria in this case are opiate drugs. So we see that the federal government spent over $4 billion last year on opiate drugs. This next column is labeled total drug cost. This represents the total number of dollars spent by the federal government across all drugs. Our research has revealed opiate drugs have many side effects. Let's use Google Rx to examine the drugs treating these side effects. We will do this by typing the following: drugs treating harm caused by opiate drugs. And what we see are almost 9,000 drugs treating the side effects. And we see that these drugs themselves have side effects. Let's sort on harm reported again. And what we see is the fact that among all the drugs treating side effects of opiate drugs, ribavirin has the most number of side effects itself. Let's drill down into the FDA details. And we discover the following. Let's sort on the count column again. And we discover the most reported side effects of ribavirin is anemia. Let's go back to the previous page. And having looked at drugs treating harm caused by opiate drugs, let's now expand on this as follows. 2014 government cost associated with drugs treating harm caused by opiate drugs. Okay, we see a variety of drugs. Let's sort on the drug cost column. And in terms of drugs treating side effects of opiate drugs, the drug that the most amount of money was spent on happens to be insulin. Let's use Google Rx to explore body organs affected by opiate drugs. This can be accomplished by typing the following: organs affected by opiate drugs. Let's scroll through the list. And what we see are a lot of body structures. Now, if we wanted to, we could use Google Rx to explore and ask questions about these body structures. Let's talk some more about opiates. Opiates are a class of drugs. We saw that morphine and oxycodone are classified as opiates. We can use Google Rx to explore how opiates themselves are classified. We can do this by typing the following: opiate drug classifications. And let's scroll through the list here. And we discover, for example, that opiate drugs can be classified as alkaloids. If we wanted to, we could use Google Rx to explore and ask questions about alkaloid drugs. Continuing on our opiate drug research theme, let's use Google Rx to find hospital patients taking opiate drugs. This part of the demonstration uses fabricated patient data representing electronic healthcare record information hypothetically extracted from Aurora Healthcare, a network of 17 hospitals in Wisconsin and northern Illinois. Finding Aurora hospital patients taking opiate drugs can be accomplished by typing the following: Aurora hospitals with patients taking opiate drugs. And what we observe here are a number of Aurora hospitals having various patients taking various kinds of drugs that are classified as opiate drugs. Instead of patients taking opiate drugs, let's change our question and ask about patients having endocrine disorders. And what we see are a number of Aurora hospitals with a variety of patients again, having various diagnoses that can be classified as endocrine disorders. We see there were 17 rows returned. Let's restrict our Aurora patient population to include only Aurora hospitals in southern Wisconsin. This can be accomplished by making the following modification: Aurora hospitals in southern Wisconsin with patients having endocrine disorders. In executing this, we see that there are 2 less rows returned. Instead of a patient population limited to Aurora hospitals, Google RX has the ability to query theoretically across all healthcare institutions in the United States. Now, in this demonstration, Google RX is emulating this using a collection of databases running on various servers. Let's consider the following example of what a query across the US might look like. Hospitals with patients having chronic diseases. Notice that patient data from a fictitious healthcare information exchange show up. What is interesting about this is the fact that the underlying data for this HIE came from various XML documents, a CCD XML document and some prescription drug XML document. Google RX uses Divine Inspiration's TCSQL technology that knows how to query the data in any XML document without having to know anything about the XML document, including its structure. If you're an IT person, such a claim should sound impossible. TCSQL uses a knowledge modeling concept called soft schemas and a revolutionary concept called polymorphic queries to accomplish this. You just saw a powerful and inspiring demonstration of how Google RX can be used for pure noble cause kind of research. Let's look at other powerful Google RX capabilities for the general public, healthcare providers, clinical researchers, healthcare payers, and population health managers. Consider the following examples. Let's look at another example. Drugs causing weight loss. And let's sort on the harm reported column. Now, the drugs you see listed here were designed to treat other conditions. The fact that these drugs have a side effect of weight loss means they represent candidate drugs that potentially could be repurposed as weight loss drugs. Google RX can be used to research potential harmful drug interactions. Consider the following example. Drug interactions associated with prednisone, aprepitant, and rifabutin. Note, drugs such as deltazone and orasone are branded names for prednisone. Other websites also provide the ability to investigate drug interactions, but what distinguishes Google RX is its ability to investigate drug interactions at a class level. Let's make the following modification. Prednisone is an instance of a class of drugs called steroids. Let's replace prednisone with steroid. Aprepitant is an instance of a class of drugs known as oxazines. Let's replace aprepitant with oxazine. And rifabutin is an instance of a class of drugs known as antibiotics. Let's replace rifabutin with antibiotic. And let's now execute this new query. We see that there are over 112,000 potentially harmful drug interactions. To generate these results, Google RX created a large single list of every steroid, every oxazine, and every antibiotic, and then searched to see if any pair of drugs in this list, when taken together, have any known harmful drug interactions. Google RX can be used by medical coders to assist in determining appropriate codes to assign to provider services performed on patients. Consider the following example. SNOMED codes for steroid drugs treating gastrointestinal diseases. And here we have a number of drugs and corresponding SNOMED codes. Google RX can also be used to find codes defined for quality measures. Consider the following example. Codes for NQF 0528. The codes returned by Google RX are more than the codes originally defined in the NQF 0528 quality measure specification. Google RX also includes code equivalents in other vocabularies. This makes quality measures more portable and potentially expands their use globally. You have just witnessed a demonstration of Google RX. The examples illustrate the use of Google RX by an average person to perform powerful search and compute capabilities in seconds or minutes. What normally could take weeks or months to achieve by a team of highly skilled technical professionals. Google RX represents the first of a revolutionary new breed of applications supporting a disruptive new knowledge inference search and compute paradigm created by Divine Inspirations. The demonstration version of Google RX you witnessed utilized a small set of reported drug harm data from the FDA, drug cost data from CMS's Medicaid drug rebate program, and fabricated data representing fictitious patient data from Aurora hospitals. The Healthcare Knowledge Base UMLS from the National Library of Medicine was used to classify this underlying data. The powerful knowledge inference search and compute capabilities demonstrated utilized a software technology called TCSQL from Divine Inspirations. The production version of Google RX will be readily available in the fall of 2015. Use of Google RX to the general public will be free of charge. If you are a healthcare provider, a healthcare payer, population health manager, clinical researcher, medical coder, or a law firm, and you wish to become a customer of Google RX, please contact me as follows. I hope you enjoyed watching this demonstration, and thank you for your time.